All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in a state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind until death. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind from now until this time tomorrow. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhajra Samaja, Bhajra Samaja, Bhajra Samaja, protectors of all sentient beings without exception. Deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Aryam Padyam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Gende Nivide Shabda Praticha Soham. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, far continent, sun and moon. I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Namo to the Guru, the complete purity of phenomenal existence. I make offerings to you who manifest in the ground of phenomenal existence, and supplicate you for the total liberation of the three realms. Grant your blessings of dredging samsara from its very depths. Lord, wish fulfilling gem, ornament of my crown, beyond word and expression is your victorious mind. Endowed with the five superior primordial wisdoms, epitome of love, the one with kindness, precious protector of wandering beings. I supplicate you in the innate state of my mind, bless me in that state of suchness. Grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thought. Please turn to the general laying aside text. So, some background. Maybe I have mentioned, I don't know, how this particular text, the laying aside, how it came to my attention. There is so much, within the tradition, especially different texts, different practice texts, and all of that, that, most of us are simply not aware of. But when in fact, in the old country, so to say, it's like a standard bread and butter. So a lot of the standard bread and butter practices, we actually never got, instead we got other things. Then the other things, then we think, oh, this must be standard, but it's some skillful means of, the teachers who first came to the West and started teaching, and then they introduced this, but it was not necessarily the same set of practices. So this text, the general laying aside, comes from a compilation now published in book form, about this thick, and this thing is called the Chuchi. All lineages have their Chuchi. Chuchi is like you could say, the manual of common practices. That is that one text that I think most monks and nuns today have most readily with them, because it's like the general compilation of a set of practices, a set of rituals and practices that they do for themselves, their own, and then also when requested by lay people. So this collection called Juju. So this general laying aside, Chi Shak in Tibetan is Chi. Chi is like universal or general or common. Shakpa, lay aside. This Chi Shak text is one of the texts in the Juju. Next to this text, after this text, they provide a short, more detailed Vajrasattva meditation. Vajrasattva arising in the space above, and then this cascading waterfall, elixir flowing down, going into us, pulling out all the yucky things. So this is this Chishak is part of the Juju. So where I as I said, where I got where I started to notice this text, it's not so much reading the Juju, because it's just like, oh, the Juju has a bunch of things, a bunch of rituals, a bunch of practices. It's when I was reading one of the texts, looking at one of the texts preserved in Chenga Drokpa Jungne's very small volume. Unfortunately, many of the teachings of our early masters after Jigden Sumgön, Jigden Sumgön's collected teachings is well kind of kept, close to maybe 900 different texts, long and short, some short, even just a few lines, long, a couple of hundred pages. So Gilbert Rinpoche's teachings are, relatively well preserved and well transmitted, although many people said that there was probably more. But then for sure, his immediate disciples, not too many of their teachings have come down to us. Even someone as important, as great as Drokpa Jungne. Drokpa Jungne and Sherab Jungne were the two main disciples, the sun and moon disciples. Sherab Jungne was the one who compiled many of these teachings. So in a way, you could say Sherab Jungne's work is found in Kyoba's collection, because it was Sherab Jungne that gathered all these teachings, put them together, and transmitted them. Drokpa Jungne was a disciple who took care of Pamudrupa's monastery and revived Pamudrupa's monastery that went into deep decline very soon after Pamudrupa's passing. Gyoba Rinpoche tried to prevent that from happening, but he wasn't able to. In fact, he left in the middle of the night because it was such a difficult situation there. Some of his fellow Dharma brothers asked him to go anchor Densatil, Pamudrupa's monastery, but he couldn't. He left. Then later in life, when he became a great Lama with such great following, then Pamudrupa's monastery came to him and said, please, you have a responsibility to help revive your teacher's monastery. So he sent Drokpa Jungne, Chenga Drokpa Jungne. So Drokpa Jungne, as I said, even someone like Drokpa Jungne, who was very important to Pamudrupa's monastery, and then of course very important to Jigden Sumgön's legacy, because later in life, after he had become the head of Pamudrupa's monastery for a good number of years, stabilized it, caused it to grow, then Jigden Sumgön's monastery needed him. Drigong Tail, and then Drigong Tail asked him, please come back, and he came back. And it is said that he prevented invading Mongols from destroying Drigong Tail. So he was not only a great Lama, he was a great, you could say, statesman. He negotiated with the Mongols to keep the Mongols at bay. Anyway, in one of his texts called the Vajra Mind, which is a collection of not his own words, but a collection of teachings of his teacher that he remembered. In there it says, and this Vajra Mind is also the source of the, if you attended this past weekend's Saturday's Amitabha program, I took the opportunity to share Kyopa Rinpoche's teachings on how the four immeasurables lies at the heart of the four Buddha activities. So often people talk about the four Buddha activities in terms that are almost like magic, you know. And in fact, the notion of the four Buddha activities is the background is in fact kind of like magic feats, magical powers in Indian folk religion. The power to pacify, the power to increase, the power to attract and control, and the power to destroy. So these ideas come from, kind of folk religion in India, and then eventually the Buddhist Tantra absorbed that, right, and provided a Dharma framework of how to work with these four types of magic. But Kyopa Rinpoche gave the essence of this magic, tying the four activities with the four immeasurables. Yeah. So and that comes from also this Vajra Mind, this text. So in Vajra Mind, I'm going to read to you. It says, so here is talking about the four practices for laying aside negative karma, laying aside negative habitual patterns, laying aside the seeds of negativity. Normally we translate it as confession. So here he says, for the outer, so he's talking about outer, inner, secret, and suchness. A very common framing of things of the outer aspect, the inner aspect, the secret aspect, and then the suchness aspect, the nature, the level of reality, dekona ni in Tibetan, dekona ni, suchness. So for the outer laying aside, he says, perform the general laying aside 3 times, which is the text that we have. There are many texts, I think, in the different lineages that all have this title, the general laying aside. The wording may be a little different from lineage to lineage, but the content is basically the same. So this is called the general laying aside. So he says for the outer, the most coarse, but necessary, you have to start from there. For the outer laying aside, he says perform the general laying aside 3 times. For the inner laying aside, recite the 100-syllable mantra. In fact, as you know, our general laying aside text includes this as well. So in a way, it is actually, it encompasses the outer and the inner laying aside. And so he says, for the inner laying aside, recite the 100-syllable mantra. For the secret laying aside, so a deeper level of laying aside, he says, you cultivate the samadhi empowerment. Samadhi empowerment is the receiving of the 4 empowerments from the Guru by the power of samadhi, through the power of using your stability of mind to directly take the 4 empowerments from the Guru. So this is, like you could say, the essence of the practice of empowerment. So of course, empowerment rituals can get very elaborate, can get very fancy. But the essence is your ability to take the 4 empowerments from the Guru. A, a footnote about this, we have gotten in the habit of saying receiving empowerment, receiving empowerment, receiving empowerment, receiving empowerment. Yeah. Actually, the verb that is often used in the Tibetan text is not receive, it's take. So it puts uh, the burden, so to say, it puts the responsibility on you, on us. We have to take. Mm. So this, taking empowerment instead of receiving, 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 like passively receiving, just sit there. Someone's going to spoon feed you. Mm. Doesn't happen like that. You have to take. So that's important. So for the secret empowerment and for the secret laying aside, a deeper level of clearing these negative karma and negative habitual propensities, you practice the samadhi empowerment. Then for the suchness laying aside, at the level of the most fundamental level, it says cultivate Mahamudra. Practice Mahamudra. Let Mahamudra wisdom, let Mahamudra view penetrate deeply into the very core of our being, of our psyche. And with that, Mahamudra can lay aside all these faults. By these four, all negativities without exception are cleared from the root. Mhm. So through these four, all negativities without exception are cleared from the root. Okay, now the general laying aside. Allah's great Guru Vajra holder and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times. I, who am called Kunju Yishid Durje, supplicate you turn your awakened attention to me. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them, henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. Om, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. Ah, I expose and confess the broken samayas of Padma, exalted speech. Hung, I expose and confess the broken samayas of perfect exalted mind. He, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The three non-virtues of the body, the four non-virtues of speech, the three non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually. With faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva I pay homage. Vajra Sattva Samaya Mandubalaya Bhaja Sattva Denoba Dita Dita Mebava Sudokaya Mebava Subokaya Mebava Sawagama Sujame Janam Zram Guru Mandubalaya Bhaja Sattva Denoba Dita Dita Mebava Bhaja Sattva Samaya Mandubalaya Guru Anurado Mebava Zavazin Bhaja Sattva Denoba Dita Dita Bhaja Sattva Samaya Mandubalaya Bhaja Sattva Samaya Mandubalaya Bhazarasada Denomadena Denome Sudokayama Mazamugayama Vajra Sada Denupa, Sudo, Vajra Mame Jambazra Baba Mahazamaya Sato Om Vajra Sato Samaya Manopalaya Vajra Sato Tenopa Teda Dedo Mema Sudo Gayo Mema Sudo Gayo Mema Rato Mema Sarvasiddha Member Sangokamaza Jamachanam Jayam Guru Zavata Davada Vajrama Memancha Vajra Bava Mahazamaya Sato. Now please go to the main manual near Nipa's text. Again, bodhicitta has three crucial elements: unbiased loving kindness as the basis. From the basis of unbiased, limitless loving kindness, genuine and problem-free, you could say, compassion can arise. Then on the basis of these two, as the force, as the power, move in the direction of wisdom. Understand that the only real solution to suffering is Buddhahood. And as for Buddhahood, it's something that we have to achieve ourselves. Only when we are able to achieve that ourselves can we then, by example and by guidance, lead others to Buddhahood. Yes, there is a tension, in some ways you could say, at the level of application bodhicitta. There is a tension, and not a problematic tension. Again, I see it as a necessary or useful tension, which is on the one hand, more immediately actually helping someone, more immediately. And then the deeper helping someone, which is guiding, leading them to Buddhahood. Yes, there is a tension there. I think if we're honest about this aspect of application, because on the one hand, it feels like it's saying, until you are Buddhist, not much you can do for others. And if you take that too far, yes, then your practice becomes, very narcissistic. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you think, oh, I will go solve everyone's problems. Yeah, I want so much, for everyone to be free from suffering. But there can be no results that are lacking in causes. And so, no matter how much you want someone to have happiness and freedom from suffering, right? If the cause and effect is not there, right? It is impossible for it to happen. And so the main point is developing bodhicitta as a commitment to achieving Buddhahood. For that, we have to experience. We need to have some experience in how easily it can be, to not get sucked into this vicious cycle of anger and resentment, this vicious cycle of desire and attachment, this vicious cycle of confusion upon confusion. But I want it this way. I want it this way. And that's part of delusion. How unfair, how, all this, part of delusion. And if we have no ability, to wield the power to extricate ourselves from that, then how in the world can we extricate others from these poisons? Not possible. And so this bodhicitta then, in terms of the creation stage, then becomes idam. Bodhicitta, when embodied in the world, becomes idam. And then, within the context of idam, look into your mind and seeing the Guru there, in your mind, in your heart, and Guru in your heart. That pristine, pure nature. In a way, you could say, like, the appearance aspect is covered by idam. The essence aspect is covered by Guru. And so now 3 of the Fivefold Mahamudra we are cultivating. So appearance and emptiness, right? You've heard this expression, or in Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness form. The Heart Sutra level of training in form is emptiness and emptiness is form is training on the, you could say, wisdom aspect. Of course, both wisdom and compassion aspects are always there, but the main thrust is helping, is training us in the wisdom aspect, in understanding how form or appearances, their essence is empty of intrinsic existence, intrinsic nature. But lacking in intrinsic nature is also what allows the various forms, the various appearances to manifest from moment to moment to moment. And now we know, according to the principle of karmic causality. Right? Then, in the creation stage, specifically the way we train in the creation stage according to the Fivefold formula, the Fivefold organizing principle, then the appearance is the appearance of a Buddha, of a Yidam. Then the essence, instead of just stating it in terms of emptiness, the essence now is the Guru. The essence is now Guru. And the Guru is the emptiness. The Guru is the one that frees us from fixations. The Idam is the one that therefore enables us to be effective in helping others. So it doesn't need to be a tension that cannot be held together. And this, so right now, manifesting as idam can help, will help. And when we, in the real world, are helping, it says, if we do it from the awareness, the pride, the confidence, the conviction of being idam, and then its effect is much more impactful. And so the second and the third aspect of the Fivefold Mahamudra is the appearance aspect and the essence aspect. The appearance aspect is the idam. The essence aspect is the guru. And these two inseparable is the natural state Mahamudra, the fourth part. Then, what are we doing all of this for? Dedicated to the awakening of all beings without exception, where there is no difference between subject, object, and action. When we see the interdependence of subject, object, and action as interdependently arising and therefore lacking duality, so then one full circle, all fivefold, all five aspects of Mahamudra is included in our practice. So then specifically, right, the training in the natural state Mahamudra on page 45, if within the sky-like expanse of mind as such, so the mind's nature, mind itself, mind as such, semni, is mindness, if you want to be literal in the translation, mindness, ni. And ni is like the essence, mind essence. So within this mind essence, which is like the sky. So what is it about the sky that is a good analogy for the mind? One, the sky or space has no center or periphery. If you say center of the sky, center of space, immediately we know it's only in relation to where we are standing. That we temporarily say, oh, center of the sky, center of space. But that is always, that is not fixed at all. So the mind's nature has no center, has no periphery. To the degree that we speak of center and periphery, these are temporarily arising circumstances and conditions. So this is one reason why sky or space is often used as communicating something about the qualities of the mind nature. Next, space or sky or space is not an element. Even sometimes we say it's one of the five elements, but technically it's not an element. But it is what makes the elements possible. Without space, no form can turn up. Right? If we say, oh, no more space, that means what? That means no further form can come in because there's no more space. So again, this is another reason why space is used to indicate some of the qualities of mind itself, nature of mind. It is not a thing itself, but it makes all things possible. In Tilopa's instructions to Naropa, called the Ganga, the Mahamudra instructions, the Mahamudra Upadesha, right, given on the banks of the Ganga River. And Tilopa says to Naropa, look at space as a instruction to Naropa. He says, look at space. So if we, without intellectualizing, without being over-educated with Buddhist philosophy, imagine that you are with Tilopa, your guru, and suddenly, while taking a walk, with the guru along the banks of River Ganga, your guru sits down and suddenly he says, look at space. So try, look at space. In one moment, right, in the very initial moment, I think we can experience something when we are told to look at space. So now don't think, all of you, just look at space. Like literally with your eyes, right? Look at space. And when you look at space, in that first moment, for a very brief moment, right? We think we see space. We have a feeling, I see space. But less than a moment later, you could say half a moment after that, you're like, actually, I see forms. Right? Actually, I see forms. And then now you try to regain that first moment of seeing space is very hard. Right? And the tendency is also you think when I say look at space. So in that first moment, you feel, you have some kind of inkling. Oh yeah, I saw space. But then very quickly your mind says, no, actually you saw a lot of things. Then the next thing is you are thinking, now all these things is the opposite of space. How can I get rid of these things so that I will see space again? But actually that's not. That's trying to solve a non-existing problem. Because things are possible because of space. In fact, all the things, no matter how much, does not destroy space. Yes, of course, for the practical purposes of, oh, no, you cannot come in anymore. We are very full. Yes, of course, there's that aspect. But no matter how full, it's not like space has been destroyed. Space is there. So Tilopa's instructions to Naropa, sometimes I think maybe we too quickly want to go to what does the symbol point to, and then we forget the symbol. But actually working with the symbol itself, working with the analogy itself, and really trying to look at space. It's a very good practice from time to time as we go about our daily lives, you know. Whenever you can, you pause and you try to literally do what Tilopa said to Naropa, look at space. Just look. Hard to prolong it beyond that first moment of looking and feeling like, space. And then next moment, stuff. Lots of forms. Then leave it alone. Don't try to look again. An hour or two later, if you can remember again, look at space. Again, look at space. So here, Gilbert Rinpoche's famous song says, within this skylight expanse, within this mind, nature, mind itself, clouds gather. Now here, clouds are. In this song, the clouds are, in some ways, communicating like kind of, you could say, problems, because the clouds obscure the sun and moon, right, and the stars. So the clouds obscure the stars. So superficially, if we looked at this stanza, this verse, then we may accidentally, think that the clouds are the problems. But actually, in the broader context of Mahamudra instructions, it says, actually, the clouds are not the problem. Clouds are natural to sky. So now the analogy, because the Tibetan word namka can mean space, can mean sky. Okay, now when the clouds are involved, it's talking about sky, not just space. Unless you live very, very high, 18,000, 19,000 feet elevation, then clouds are like in space, But otherwise, right? Clouds. So the accumulated clouds of conceptualization, if they have not been dispersed. So as a starting point, you do engage in training the mind to clear the clouds so that you can see the planets and stars. You can see the brilliance of the planets and stars. However, the way you clear these clouds is not by fighting those clouds, going around with a big, I don't know what machines they use to clear clouds, to try to get rid of clouds. It says, what you should do is attend earnestly to the non-conceptual mind, to the nature of mind itself. Don't fight the clouds. Don't blame the clouds. Don't wish for a cloudless sky always. Please cloudless, please cloudless, please cloudless. Or like, I want fluffy clouds. I don't want murky clouds. I want clouds that I can imagine, Jumbo the elephant, and the Easter bunny. Don't try to manipulate the clouds. Don't fight the clouds. Don't get distracted by the clouds. Nice clouds, not so nice clouds. Inspiring clouds, depressing clouds. Leave the clouds alone. Attend earnestly, therefore, to the non-conceptual mind. Intellectually, we have some ideas that we have gained through the Buddha's words, about uh, what is this non-conceptual mind, the qualities of this non-conceptual mind. But in order to experience this non-conceptual mind, then uh, the various stages of training in Mahamudra meditation is given. So the various stages are given. So here in our manual, we begin with training with signs and characteristics. So it says here, now we have learned that to focus on the bindu in the center of your heart, you are holding the appearance, the form of the idam. Blue bindu in the center of your heart drops down to the navel, becomes golden bindu, moves up to the throat, becomes a red bindu, moves up to the crown chakra, becomes a white bindu. As necessary, train the bindu in these four places, but keep the bindu in the center. And there's meaning to keeping it in the center, right? That means without falling into subject object, without bifurcating into self and other, keep it centered, keep it in the center. And then another layer to that is on the subtle level. The minds and the winds gather in the center. So this is talking about the central channel. But Kyuba Rinpoche said that too much emphasis in the central channel as these psychophysical experiences, heat, burning up, all those things. He says too much emphasis on that misses the point of what it means that winds are energy. Energy now becoming centered means your mind, your attention has put aside all the distractions and is now gathered in the center. Even if you can superficially do breathing exercises to force the energy to go into the central channel, if you don't understand the purpose of that, at best, you feel very nice, you feel very comfortable. At best, it's just a physiological experience. So the way for this to really work is to abandon, to relinquish samsaric confusions. That's why so much of, if you read Milarepa songs, if you read all the different dohas, Vajra songs of the Kagyu masters, it seems like they have two things to say. One, Mahamudra. Two, samsara sucks. Bluntly. Only these two themes. And you think like, they must be opposite. Because when they talk about Mahamudra, it's so nice. Everything is natural, everything. Most of us, love reading about the Mahamudra part. And then we think, oh, this part about, samsara is worthless. And we think, oh, that's not, they're not really serious when they say that. Because once you understand everything is Mahamudra, Then shopping can continue, right? Accumulating stuff can continue. Huh? Hoarding things can continue. Flying first class can continue. Eating at 5-star hotels can continue. Because I know Mahamudra. But in the songs of the Kagyu masters, especially, they speak of these two things as interchangeably. How liberating it is when you understand mind itself. And when you understand mind itself, you see even more clearly the faults of samsara. And you relinquish, you relinquish, you relinquish, you relinquish. And the translation often uses abandon. I think in English, I don't know about Spanish, but in English, abandon sounds a little too strong. Especially those of us who have abandonment issues. Fear of missing out then manifests in adult life as fear of missing out, FOMO and abandonment issues, that word maybe triggers that. But relinquish, I think it's a good word, relinquish. Just done and finish. Enough. Put it down. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Relinquish. If you look at the 16 steps of the Anapanasati, the Shravasti meditation, His Holiness is recommending for the general practitioners. The last 4 all has to do with various more and more subtle levels of letting go, relinquishing. And so that's why Gilbert Rinpoche also emphasized, like the path is not about adding things, gaining things. Like sometimes, because the language of some of our texts can mislead us, into this mode of like, accomplishing, right? Accomplishment, we say siddhi. Accomplish this, accomplish that, accomplish this, accomplish that. But mainly it is about relinquishing, 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 relinquishing. Mainly it's about putting down, letting go, letting go, letting go, until there's nothing else to relinquish. Completely relinquished. Then the naturally, innately existing Buddha qualities shine forth. That is back to this point. Attend earnestly to that non-conceptual mind. Don't even need to get rid of the clouds. Begin to relate to the clouds differently. But first, right, some skill has to be developed to help us kind of see what is it, what is this non-conceptual mind. So in our text, 48, when a good state of samadhi here means kind of the mind, the heart has become steady. Is this a phantom hand or real hand?
No, it's a real hand.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, you're kind of referring to like having a new relationship with the clouds, and I was wondering if it's kind of in the sense of the clouds become more of suggestions at
Ah,
times as opposed to like things that you are necessarily like automatically
what
following and
suggestions?
reacting. The clouds, the
Uh-huh.
your conceptualizations in life.
Not suggestions. They
Okay.
arise because of your karma.
Yeah, but I'm saying like in our relationship with our conceptualizations and looking
Uh-huh.
at them as being, a result of our karma.
Yes.
Does it then is it then more skillful to look at them as almost as like suggestions,
What
like
suggestions? Like
um
what to eat?
yeah, I mean like just I don't know like everything
I
that's
don't
going
know.
on in life. Like.
If you like the word suggestions, use suggestions then. I
If
don't.
it's a good suggestion, you take it. But otherwise, you're just like, yeah, I don't need that one
No, no,
anymore,
no.
kind of a thing.
That's just kind of laziness, you know. No, see them as and they're not random, you know. Your particular set of clouds is not random. Karma. More important to see that,
Okay,
you know.
thank you.
If it is light, see how light it is and recognize, came from bright karma. If it is heavy, see how heavy it is, uh, and recognize it came from heavy karma. I did
Okay,
a whole series on karma, you know. That's also Buddha wisdom. Mhm. Yeah, so it's not, so it's a good question. I think, again, you know, too much of Mahamudra is introduced in a very flippant way. It's sold, you know, very cheaply in the marketplace. It just doesn't matter. Yeah, when suffering gets turned up, you know, matters or not. Mm. When this charging bull has entered your house, you know, like I said, you know, forget about a bull, just a little squirrel has come into your house can cause so much chaos, you know. You get freaked out by this tiny little thing. So, no, you know, recognize them as, you know, these clouds. They're not random. They're very particular to you. Right? These are the clouds that arise due to the chain of cause and effect that you are a part of in that continuum that you're involved in. But don't. Don't get stuck. Don't grasp. But absolutely clear about what it is. Absolutely clear about what it is. And the other day, I think on the weekend, you know, we talked about equanimity. Mm, Gilbert Rinpoche saying, you know, mastering equanimity uh, is the secret to pacifying suffering. Then later, you know, something happened. I mean, nothing big, just using as an example, you know. Then in response, this person said, you know, oh, I'm going to go, you know, practice equanimity and basically saying, you know, and I don't want to think so much about this situation because, you know, mm, I'm getting a little freaked out, you know, so to say, uh, by this uh, situation that seems to be the beginning of a set of suffering. So I'm going to go practice equanimity now and pacify this suffering. Then my response to the person is like, you know, uh, mm, what do you have to remember, you know, by equanimity is the near enemy of equanimity is what? The evil twin, ignorant indifference. So oftentimes when we say practice, I'm going to go practice equanimity now, is saying, I'm going to go bury my head in the sand now. That's not equanimity. That's burying your head in the sand. You have to simultaneously see, this potential set of suffering that may start now comes from a chain of causes and effects that comes from a number of choices that you made. See that. That's the appearance aspect. The essence aspect, know that karma doesn't make mistakes. Karma manifests accordingly. And second point to the essence aspect, as karma manifests, we still have a choice how much we want to participate in the suffering or not. So equanimity arises from clear seeing. Don't mistake equanimity for burying your head in the sand or numbing the experience. You say, I'm going to go numb myself now. I'm going to go take some painkillers. I'm going to take some narcotics. I'm going to take some alcohol so that I blur my mind. That's the near enemy, That's the evil twin of equanimity. So that's not the way, right? Be clear about the causes and effects so that we don't become, on the other hand, right? Dismissive of everything. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Yes, Judy.
If using your abandonment issue, if we have a situation that's created where we're feeling abandoned and we recognize that we're feeling abandoned and we therefore can say this is karma.
Uh-huh.
It's coming on.
Yes.
It's still personal.
Yes.
But it puts some distance
Yes.
in the
Correct.
situation.
Correct.
So you can sort of take a breath.
Yes.
And then decide sort of where you go with it or
yes.
not.
Correct. Yes.
So that's the process, basically, or a process.
Yeah.
Of sort of getting some knowledge.
Yes.
About it.
Yes. And a good therapist, can help us see, in a sense, when it's necessary to be personal and when it's necessary to not personalize it. Right? Like when to own it and when to not own it, right? It's not totally don't own it and or totally own it, right? There's a tipping point where owning it becomes a burden. It's not going to heal. And then habitually not owning it, not taking responsibility, so to say, right? You'll never get out of that mess. So all your deep experience with therapy, as a therapist, I'm sure you know this, So now, how can we help ourselves and help others, to help ourselves and help others figure out where is that tipping point? Often we need to get to the edge of that tipping point to actually recognize, oh, here is the tipping point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Daniela?
Yeah, thank you. In equanimity, I see the clouds and see the suffering, and at the same time stay in Yeah, and happiness, and stay with this
Yes. Yeah. Stay in the
to
sense of
recognize.
don't act. So mainly the heart doesn't act. The heart doesn't move. But not a dead, not moving. Close your eyes, stick your head in the ground, not moving, but wide open eyes, right? So this has to do with samadhi. The heart is holding steady. The two qualities of mind that I said, that we are trying to grow and encourage: unmoving, clear. So always have these two. Don't let the heart shake, but bright and clear. These two qualities. These two qualities turn up in various contexts. Elsewhere, it's Kambupa's favorite expression, the sun and its rays, the wood and its fragrance, fire and its warmth, mind itself and what mind produces. The ultimate subject-object divide is mind itself and what mind produces. That's the duality that needs to be dropped, relinquished. When a good state of samadhi arises from doing so, from training in the bindus, relax in the natural state, not holding the object of focus, and rest for a little while. Then, no need to deliberately keep the form of the idam, no need to artificially, although artificially sometimes is needed. In this case now, when it has some kind of steadiness, when the mind is content not to move, happy not to move, not forced not to move, but really through training with the bindu, satisfied and happy, content not to move, then no need to deliberately visualize idam, think about guru in the heart, no need to focus on the bindu. Just allow the mind to just settle and rest for a little while. Then again, focus your mind more intently on the bindu at the heart and cultivate that. Cultivate is my term now for meditate on. So when you go read other Buddhist books, when they say meditate on ... you substitute it with cultivate. Too passive, meditate on. This is something you have to cultivate. And the analogy of cultivate is grounded in the analogy of growing things on the ground, as a gardener, as a farmer would do. So it takes attention, it takes patience. Cultivate in that sense. I've used this analogy before, if you lack patience, right? You try to make your whatever you're planting grow faster. Pull it up a little bit each day. Help it grow. Let me pull it up a little bit. You'll kill it. You also cannot start a garden and say, it's fine now. The weeds will take over. So you need to weed out that which is not what you want. So this analogy of cultivate, which the Buddha used, bhavana was the original in Pali, in Sanskrit. these agricultural terms during the Buddha's own time. And he employed it because basically his people were farmers. They were a farming culture. So he used this analogy to cultivate. Again, perform the preparations as before, at the center of the navel. Cultivate as before, without distraction, a yellow bindu, the size of a mustard seed. If sinking or dullness of minds occurs, without distraction, a red bindu. So pull the bindu up, now it's become red at the throat. Down to the navel can help kind of ground us. So just as a suggestion, right? Some of us, not all of us, due to our own kind of constitution, bringing too much attention to the heart center, the heart chakra, as they would say, may be not skillful. Yeah, they may not be skillful. So if you are the very emotional type, maybe not so skillful to have too much attention here. Then drop it down. Drop it down to the navel. And there, sometimes we read too much, we confuse it with like sexual energy, That's a different chakra. This navel chakra is where life begins. That's how we were fed, in the womb. Where life begins is there. So this is sinking down, right, to our kind of, you could say, our core, the core of our existence. So this is called, in Chinese, Japanese, it's called dantian. It uses a alchemical image, which is, this is where the pill of immortality can be found in the Chinese, Japanese tradition called danten. And this is also where energy first entered our lives. So let the bindu drop down there with this yellow, golden yellow light. And it's very nourishing, very stabilizing, very nurturing. Then when the mind sinks and there's dullness, you feel that there's dullness, then pull up to the throat. Again, at the center of the crown, without distraction, white bindu. So without me, like kind of giving all kinds of ideas too much, you experience yourself, what are the qualitative differences for you when you have these different color bindus at different parts of this central channel. Yourself experience it, then without too many words, without the need to explain, without the need to rationalize, you have direct experience of placing your mind at these different centers within the central channel. By doing so, the mind will not wander outwards, but will abide non-conceptually. So this non-conceptual mind, we can taste a little bit of what it means by doing this. And if you do this for a long, long time, even clairvoyance and so forth will arise. Now, how far you want to take clairvoyance, it's up to you. But at the very least, I can say, maybe not clairvoyance, the way you and I like to think about or tend to think about. But your ability to know things becomes stronger and stronger. Particularly know things about how, what are the first signs of afflictions arising. You become more sensitive to noticing that within yourself. So that's one kind of clairvoyance. Then the kind of clairvoyance that may benefit others is you may seem to have this ability to just say the right things at the right time to the right person. But it's not premeditated. Right? Somehow, on some deep level, you just know. And sometimes you even like surprise yourself, or you don't even think, you have said anything impactful, but you have. And this is a shift from in the past. You didn't even think you have caused hurt, but you have. Now, you don't even think you have caused benefit, but you have. Only years later, someone tells you, oh, that time, and you'll be kind of, surprised, oh, really? And this kind of clairvoyance happens as the mind settles, as you train your mind. So the Chakasamvara Tantra, by the mind being brought insight, whatever desired activities are accomplished. So you don't have to manipulate these activities, the Buddha activities. They are not Buddha activities when you're manipulating them. Then they are just common magical feats, which is again, in the original broader context of Tantra, is a concern with magical powers. The kind of early origins of Tantra, not just in Buddhist Tantra, Hindu Tantra, various types of Hindu Tantra, was this promise and this interest and even obsession with gaining magic powers, which is the ancient equivalent of the power of technology, which is very necessary, has a very practical aspect to it. But living in the times that we live in, over technology, so these feats can benefit others, but not in that very calculated way, and not in the way of I want to benefit this person, I want to help that person. But when you bring your mind inside, meaning, for example, when you train in these 4 places of the Bindus, the main advantage, so to say, is gaining some familiarity with the non-conceptual mind itself. Beneficial side effect is clairvoyance. So today we end here. And as I said, I'm leaving to go to Asia February 7th. Not this Saturday, following Saturday. So we have about 9 days more before there will be a period of interruption to the daily program. Realistically, once I'm in Asia, 12 hours, 13 hours difference, it's hard to keep this schedule. Yeah, lots of people to see, lots of people to annoy, to be annoyed by. So little hard, to turn up and be all Mahamudra. But hopefully with the 9 days, we can get to a good point in the natural state Mahamudra section. And then, for those up to 2 months, potentially, maybe after Bhutan trip, then when things calm down. So Bhutan trip is February 27th to March 10th, and then March 10th, I go back to Malaysia. Then maybe for the rest of March, it may be possible to do something. I don't know yet. By then, the excitement of having me around has died down. The excitement of me annoying people also died down. Then, everybody will content to leave each other alone. Then maybe, we can start this back up the second half of March. But, you yourself, figure out your game plan of what you do when we're not meeting. I don't know, maybe good to go review all the videos that we have. And refresh again and again and again and again. Yeah. So, page 74. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Samcho Rinpoche Ma Ke Bano Ke Gyu Ke Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Yo Gong Ne Gong Du Bel Wa Shou. Okay, bye bye, ta ta.